My best friend knew about his affair and said nothing for months. The first thing I remember is the sick feeling in my stomach, the kind that makes your hands go clammy and your breath come sharp and shallow. I was standing in the middle of the Target parking lot on a muggy Thursday afternoon in Plano, Texas, clutching my phone so tightly my knuckles were white. I'd just listened to a voice message, one I never should have heard, one that didn't belong to me. And I swear, for a split second, the world tilted sideways. The message was from my husband, Ryan, but he wasn't talking to me. And the name he said, my best friend Amanda's name, echoed through my head, louder than the blare of car alarms, louder than the summer thunder rumbling somewhere over the endless rows of minivans and SUVs. If you'd asked me that morning if I trusted Amanda with my life, I would have said yes. She was my person, the one who knew every secret, every fear, every embarrassing thing I'd ever done. We'd been through college all-nighters, broken hearts, baby showers, PTA drama, and more Target runs than I could count. We had matching Yeti tumblers, an unspoken agreement about splitting dessert at Panera, and a history so intertwined I sometimes wondered where my life ended and hers began. I would have bet my house, my actual 2-story, white brick suburban dream on Maple Avenue, that Amanda would never betray me. But I'm jumping ahead, aren't I? Let me ask you something. Have you ever questioned the loyalty of the person you trusted most? Have you ever replayed every conversation in your mind, looking for clues you didn't know you were supposed to find? I used to think betrayal was something that happened to other people, strangers in Lifetime movies, not women like me with a mortgage, a Costco membership, and a calendar color-coded by kids' activities. But I'm here to tell you, sometimes the person holding the knife is the one you'd never suspect. And sometimes, finding out the truth, no matter how much it hurts, can set you free in ways you never imagined. By the end of my story, you'll understand how Amanda's secret shattered my world, but also forced me to rebuild it from the ground up. You'll see how betrayal doesn't always come from the obvious places. And maybe, just maybe, you'll start to question the stories you're telling yourself about the people closest to you. Trust me, by the time we're done, you'll understand exactly why finding out what Amanda knew was both the worst and the best thing that ever happened to me. But before I get to that day in the parking lot, I need to take you back to where it all began. Before the voice message, before the confession, before the cracks in my perfect life started to show. My mornings always started the same way. The shrill beeping of my iPhone alarm at 6:15. The scent of vanilla candles blending with the faint smell of yesterday's coffee. The sound of my Suburban's engine purring in the driveway as I mentally rehearsed the day's schedule. School drop-off at Harrington Elementary. Quick stop at Starbucks. Always a grande iced caramel macchiato, extra drizzle because I deserve it. Then a blur of errands. Grocery run at Trader Joe's. Swing by CVS for allergy meds. Maybe a detour to Home Goods if I had time before yoga class at the community center. Our neighborhood was the kind of place that looked like a movie set. Wide streets lined with live oaks, American flags waving gently over front porches, kids weaving in and out of sprinklers on perfectly manicured lawns. On Maple Avenue, everyone pretended to have it together. We swapped recipes at block parties, competed, quietly but fiercely, over whose kids made honor roll, and waved cheerfully at each other from behind tinted SUV windows. I used to think it was all real, that we were all living the dream, just like our Instagram feeds. Now I know better. Amanda lived 5 houses down, in a tan brick colonial with a red front door and a dog that barked every time the UPS guy drove by. Our friendship started freshman year at UT Austin, when we were both awkward and homesick and bonded over our shared love of Gilmore Girls and cheap Tex-Mex. We were inseparable, roommates, then bridesmaids in each other's weddings, then partners in suburban survival as new moms. Our kids, Chloe and Mason, were born 2 weeks apart and practically raised as siblings. Our Friday wine nights were sacred. No husbands allowed, just 2 exhausted women venting about everything from toddler tantrums to the latest HOA drama. If you'd seen us together, you'd think we had it all figured out. We spoke in half sentences, finished each other's thoughts, knew every detail of each other's lives. Amanda was the friend who'd drop off homemade chicken soup when I had the flu, who'd text, "You okay?" at 11 p.m. when she sensed something was wrong, who'd show up with a bottle of Pinot Grigio and a bag of dark chocolate when Ryan and I had one of our rare but epic arguments. She was my lifeline, my sanity, the one person I thought would always have my back. And Ryan, well, from the outside, he was the perfect husband. Tall, dark-haired, with a quick smile and a steady job as a corporate accountant in Dallas. He was the kind of dad who made it to every soccer game, who grilled burgers for the whole block on Memorial Day, who never forgot my birthday, though he often forgot where he left his keys. Our marriage wasn't perfect. Whose is? But we had routines, inside jokes, shared dreams. We'd been together since Amanda set us up at her wedding, almost 16 years ago. Life was busy and sometimes messy, but it was ours. I'd convinced myself that as long as we kept up appearances, staged family photos at Arbor Hills, matching Christmas pajamas, Pinterest-perfect birthday parties, we were doing okay. But looking back, I can see the first cracks starting to form long before I realized anything was wrong. It was a Saturday in late March, the kind of day that makes you grateful for Texas spring. Blue skies, wildflowers along the highway, the air just warm enough for shorts but not so hot you're sweating through your tank top. Amanda and I were at a girls' brunch at the Biscuit Bar, surrounded by mimosas and the low hum of gossiping moms. I was talking about Chloe's science fair project and my latest attempt at DIY shiplap when I caught Amanda looking away, her eyes fixed on the TV over the bar. I brushed it off. She was probably distracted by the news or thinking about her own never-ending to-do list. But then it happened again, and again. Little moments where Amanda seemed just a bit off. She'd cancel plans last minute, claim she had to help her husband, Mark, with something at work, or that Mason was coming down with a cold. At the time, I chalked it up to the usual chaos of motherhood. We were all juggling a million things: soccer practices, PTA meetings, meal prepping, trying to keep up with everyone else's highlight reels on Instagram. Still, a tiny knot of unease started forming in the pit of my stomach, though I did my best to ignore it. It's funny how your brain tries to protect you from the truth. You see the signs, but you explain them away. You tell yourself you're just being paranoid, that you're making something out of nothing. I remember one night, Ryan came home late from a work dinner, smelling faintly of cologne he never wore, and looking tired in a way that didn't make sense. I asked how it went, and he gave me a vague answer. Something about quarterly reports and client demands. I let it go. I always let it go. Then there was the bake sale at school, a madhouse of sugar-crazed kids and competitive moms. Amanda was supposed to help me set up, but she showed up half an hour late, hair pulled back in a messy bun, eyes red-rimmed like she'd been crying. When I asked if she was okay, she smiled too brightly and changed the subject. "Did you see the cupcakes from Mrs. Carter? Store-bought, I guarantee it." We laughed, but it felt forced. In hindsight, I wonder if she was trying to tell me something, and just couldn't. Life marched on. Spring turned to early summer, and our routines continued. Soccer tournaments, pool parties, endless loads of laundry. But the tension between Amanda and me grew, an invisible thread pulling tighter and tighter. I started noticing things that didn't add up. Ryan's phone would buzz late at night, and he'd turn it face down on the nightstand. Amanda seemed nervous around him, barely making eye contact when we were all together at a neighborhood barbecue. Once, at a wine night, Amanda accidentally called Ryan by a nickname only I used, Rye. She laughed it off, blamed it on too much Chardonnay, but my skin prickled with unease. The memory that sticks out most is one evening in May, when I was folding laundry in our bedroom, my sanctuary, with its pale blue walls, white duvet, and the faint scent of lavender from my essential oil diffuser. Ryan's jacket was draped over the chair, pockets bulging with receipts, gum wrappers, and the random detritus of daily life. I reached in, searching for loose change to put in our vacation fund jar, and my fingers closed around a thin slip of paper. A hotel receipt, from the Omni in downtown Dallas. Dated 3 months earlier, on a random Wednesday when Ryan was supposedly at a late meeting. My heart started racing, but I told myself there had to be an explanation. Maybe it was a client event, or a mistake, or God. Anything but what it looked like. I almost called Amanda right then, desperate for her steady voice, her talent for making sense of chaos. But something stopped me. I tucked the receipt back in the pocket, finished folding the laundry, and tried to convince myself it didn't matter. But it did matter. It mattered more than I could possibly know. That night, as I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the soft whir of the ceiling fan and Ryan's slow, even breathing beside me, I felt more alone than I had in years. I thought about our life, our kids asleep down the hall, the mortgage payment due next week, the carefully curated world we'd built together. I thought about Amanda, about all the times she'd listened to me vent about Ryan's long hours, about the way she'd always defended him, always told me not to worry. But now, with the hotel receipt burning a hole in my memory, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. And the worst part? Deep down, a tiny voice whispered that Amanda already knew the truth, that she'd been keeping secrets, not just from me, but about me. That the story I'd been telling myself about our friendship, about my marriage, about the safety of my little suburban bubble, was about to come crashing down. But I had no idea just how far the cracks would spread, or that Amanda's silence would be the thing that hurt the most. I wish I could say that after finding that hotel receipt, I immediately sprang into action, took charge, confronted Ryan, and got my answers. But that's not how real life works. At least not my life. Instead, I did what I always did when the world felt too big to handle. I stuffed the receipt into the back pocket of my jeans, poured myself another mug of coffee, lit a vanilla-scented candle, and sat at the kitchen island with my head in my hands, staring at the list of chores I'd written out for the day. Maple Avenue looked so normal outside my window. Kids riding scooters on the sidewalk, neighbors waving as they walked their dogs, the faint hum of lawnmowers in the distance. It was a Tuesday, and on Tuesdays I usually met Amanda for our standing Starbucks date after school drop-off. That morning, though, I texted her and said I had a headache and needed to skip. She texted back instantly, her usual string of heart emojis and a, "Let me know if you need anything, babe." I stared at her words for a long time, feeling an ache in my chest that had nothing to do with my head. The truth was, Amanda had become like a sister to me. We'd met our first week at UT Austin, two homesick freshmen who bonded over terrible cafeteria food and a mutual love of true crime podcasts. She was the maid of honor at my wedding, the godmother to my youngest, the person who knew my coffee order by heart and had my garage code memorized. After college, we both ended up in Plano. Her by marriage, me by default when Ryan's job transferred him here. We bought houses 2 blocks apart, went to the same PTA meetings, signed up our kids for the same soccer teams. Our lives were so intertwined that sometimes I wondered where I ended, and she began. That was why, as the days passed after discovering the receipt, I found myself watching Amanda closely, looking for any sign that she was hiding something from me. I noticed every nervous smile, every time she looked away a little too quickly, every time she changed the subject when Ryan's name came up. I tried to tell myself I was being paranoid, that I was just on edge because of the receipt, but the feeling wouldn't go away. One Thursday afternoon, after school pickup, Amanda and I sat in my backyard while our kids played tag around the swing set. The sun was starting to set, casting a golden glow over the grass, and Amanda poured us each a glass of wine. We talked about the usual things, field trips, the upcoming school fundraiser, whether we should sign the kids up for swim lessons this summer. But then she glanced over at me, her eyes shadowed, and asked, "Is everything okay with you and Ryan? You've seemed off lately." My heart hammered in my chest. For a second, I thought about telling her everything, about the receipt, about the gnawing suspicion I couldn't shake. But I hesitated. Amanda looked so genuinely concerned, so much like the friend who'd always had my back. I couldn't bring myself to say the words. Instead, I shrugged and told her I was just tired, that work had been stressful for Ryan, that I was fine. She nodded, but I saw her hand tremble as she set her wine glass down. That detail stuck with me, a tiny splinter I couldn't pull out. A few days later, I tried to focus on normalcy. I did the grocery run at Target, picked up the dry cleaning, baked cupcakes for the bake sale. Ryan was home less and less. He blamed tax season, said his clients were demanding, that he was pulling late nights at the office. When he was home, he was distant, more interested in ESPN highlights than in talking to me. He started going to the gym every morning, something he'd never done before, and bought himself new cologne and shirts from Nordstrom. I told myself it was just a midlife thing, that maybe he was trying to impress the partners at work. Maybe he was stressed about the mortgage or the HOA fees, or the fact that our oldest was already talking about college. But then there were the little things. One night, as I was folding laundry in the living room, I noticed the smell of perfume on Ryan's shirt, something floral and sharp. Definitely not mine. Another day, I found a strange earring in the bottom of the car's cup holder. When I asked Ryan about it, he shrugged and said it was probably one of Amanda's from when she'd carpooled the kids. It made sense, but still, something felt wrong. I decided to confide in Amanda one morning at Panera Bread. I chose a table by the window, ordered our usual, her, a cinnamon crunch bagel and a caramel latte, me, a spinach souffle and black coffee. As soon as she sat down, I blurted out, "Do you ever worry that your husband is hiding something from you?" She nearly choked on her coffee. "What? No. Why would you ask that?" I tried to laugh it off. "I don't know. Ryan's just been weird lately. Distant. Working late. I found a hotel receipt in his jacket, and he said it was for a work event, but..." I trailed off, hoping she'd jump in and reassure me, tell me I was overthinking, that Ryan loved me, that everything was fine. Amanda reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Listen, you're probably just tired. Tax season makes everyone crazy. Ryan's not the type to, cheat. He's devoted to you. And even if he is stressed, it's not your fault." She said all the right things, but her eyes darted away from mine, and she started fidgeting with her wedding ring. I noticed her hands shaking again, but I didn't say anything. After that, Amanda started canceling our plans more often. She'd text last minute that one of her kids was sick, or that she had to run an errand for her husband, or that she was swamped with PTA work. At the next book club meeting, she barely looked at me. When we did talk, she seemed distracted, constantly checking her phone, glancing over her shoulder as if she was waiting for someone to catch her in a lie. One Saturday, at a Little League game, I noticed Amanda and Ryan talking quietly near the bleachers. They were standing closer than usual, their heads bent together, voices low. When I walked over, they broke apart, and Amanda immediately started talking about the fundraiser again, how we needed more volunteers, how the sign-up sheet was still half empty. Ryan excused himself to take a call, and Amanda turned to me with a forced smile. "Sorry, we were just trying to figure out who's bringing snacks next week. Total chaos." She gave a little laugh, but her eyes were glossy. I wanted to believe her. I really did. That night, I replayed the conversation in my head over and over. I thought about all the times Amanda had been distracted lately, all the times Ryan had been distant. I started to wonder if maybe I was the problem, if I was being too needy, too suspicious, too insecure. Maybe Amanda was just stressed. Maybe Ryan really was just busy. But then, the next morning, I got a text from Amanda. "Thinking of you. Let's do a girls' night soon. You deserve a break." I stared at the message, feeling a mix of gratitude and suspicion. I couldn't tell if she was reaching out because she cared, or because she felt guilty about something she wasn't saying. The days blurred together. I tried to keep up appearances, smiling at the other moms at school drop-off, baking cookies for the neighborhood watch meeting, making small talk with the neighbors about the upcoming community festival. But inside, I was unraveling. Every time Ryan came home late, every time Amanda canceled plans, every time I caught them talking quietly together, The knot in my stomach grew tighter. One rainy Tuesday morning, everything changed. Ryan had left his iPad at home, and I needed to check our joint grocery list. As I opened the Notes app, a notification popped up, a new message. I hesitated, my heart pounding, then swiped it open. It wasn't from a contact I recognized, just the initial B. The message was short. "Sorry I missed you last night. Next time?" But it was enough to make my vision blur. I scrolled back through the thread, my hands shaking. There were dozens of messages, some flirty, some mundane, all of them intimate. My breath caught in my throat. I kept scrolling, desperate for an explanation, for any sign that this was some kind of misunderstanding. But then I saw Amanda's name. My blood ran cold. There, in the chat history, were messages between Amanda and Ryan. At first, they seemed innocent, reminders about carpool pickups, school events, the bake sale. But then, further back, I found messages that made my stomach drop. Amanda. "She's starting to get suspicious. You need to be more careful." Ryan. "I know. I'll handle it. Please just don't say anything yet." Amanda. "I won't. But I can't keep lying to her. She's my best friend." I stared at the screen, unable to process what I was seeing. Amanda knew. She'd known all along. She'd been comforting me, reassuring me, all while keeping this secret for Ryan. The betrayal hit me like a punch to the gut. I felt dizzy, like the ground was shifting beneath my feet. I sat there for a long time, just staring at the messages, feeling my world crack open. Every conversation I'd had with Amanda over the past few months replayed in my mind, now colored by this new knowledge. Every hug, every late-night phone call, every "I'm here for you" felt like a lie. A million questions raced through my mind. How long had this been going on? Why didn't Amanda tell me? Was she protecting me or protecting Ryan? Or was she just afraid of what would happen if the truth came out? I wanted to confront them both right then and there. Ryan for cheating, Amanda for betraying me. But I couldn't move. I felt paralyzed, trapped in my own kitchen, surrounded by the smell of vanilla candles and the sound of rain tapping against the windows. I thought about our lives, our kids, our families, our friendships. I thought about what would happen if I blew everything up, but I knew I couldn't pretend anymore. I couldn't keep going through the motions, pretending everything was fine, when it was all falling apart behind the scenes. I had to do something. I had to get answers. The next day, I called Amanda. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped the phone. When she answered, her voice was cheerful, but I could hear the tension beneath it. I didn't bother with small talk. "I know," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I know everything, Amanda. I saw the messages. You knew about Ryan. You knew, and you didn't tell me." There was a long pause. I could hear her breathing, shaky and uneven. When she finally spoke, her voice broke. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I wanted to tell you. I didn't know how. I wanted to scream, to cry, to hang up the phone and never speak to her again. But all I could do was sit there, numb, as she tried to explain herself. How Ryan had begged her not to say anything, how she thought she was protecting me, how she never wanted to hurt me. But all I could think was, if she really cared about me, she would have told me the truth. She would have chosen me over him. She would have been the friend I thought she was. And that was when I realized the betrayal wasn't just about Ryan's affair. It was about Amanda's silence, about the lies she told by omission, about the trust she broke without even realizing it. But as Amanda kept talking, her voice growing more desperate, she said something that made my blood run cold, something that made me question everything, even my own role in this mess. She said, "There's more you don't know. Please, just let me explain." And in that moment, I realized I hadn't even scratched the surface of the truth. I stared at Amanda, my mind racing, her words echoing in the stale air of my car. "There's more you don't know. Please, just let me explain." Suddenly, the drizzle tapping on the windshield sounded like static. a background to the chaos unraveling inside me. I wanted to scream, to demand she spit it out, but all I could do was grip the steering wheel, knuckles white, heart thundering so loud I wondered if she could hear it. Amanda wiped at her eyes, mascara streaking down her cheeks, the perfect PTA mom mask slipping away right there in the middle of the Target parking lot. The world moved around us, shopping carts rattling by, a couple arguing about coupons, a little boy in a raincoat splashing in a puddle. But for me, everything had narrowed to the two of us and the truth I was about to hear. She took a shaky breath, glancing at me with a look I'd never seen before, part fear, part shame. Ryan, he didn't just have an affair. He came to me about it, months ago. He told me everything. Her voice broke. He said he was confused, that he didn't want to hurt you, but that he couldn't stop. He made me promise not to tell you. She looked down at her hands, twisting them in her lap. He said you needed stability, that the kids needed things to stay normal. He begged me, Sarah. He said if you found out, it would destroy everything. And I believed him. I thought I was helping. My throat tightened. I wanted to ask a million questions at once. How could she let me sit across from her at Panera Bread, pouring out my suspicions while she held this secret? How many times did she look me in the eye and lie by omission, offering comfort she knew I didn't deserve? My voice was thin, barely above a whisper. So you just let me live in the dark? You thought that was better? Amanda shook her head, tears pooling. I didn't know what to do. I thought if I waited, maybe he'd stop. Maybe he'd come clean on his own. I tried to encourage him. I really did. But then, when you started asking questions, I panicked. I didn't want to be the one to break your heart. I remembered every awkward glance, every time she changed the subject, every moment she hesitated when I asked about Ryan. It all clicked into place, like puzzle pieces I'd been forcing into the wrong spots for months. But she wasn't finished. There's more, Sarah. I need you to know this wasn't just about Ryan. She hesitated, swallowing hard. I saw things. I heard things. I tried to convince myself they didn't mean anything. But I knew deep down I should have told you. I was scared. I thought if I kept quiet, everything would stay the same. But it didn't. It just got worse. I felt hot tears sting my eyes. My whole life, my marriage, my friendships, my sense of safety, felt like it was unraveling right there in my hands. The steering wheel felt slick with sweat, and I pressed my forehead against it, trying to steady myself. I wanted to lash out, to tell her she'd failed me in the worst possible way. But part of me, some stubborn, hopeful part, still wanted to understand. What do you mean you saw things? What else is there, Amanda? She pressed her lips together, gathering her courage. You remember last fall, when you were out of town for that conference in Austin? The kids had that big soccer game. Ryan came to watch with me. Afterwards, he offered to help pack up the snack table. I saw him in his car, on the phone. He looked different, guilty. Later, I overheard him talking to someone about meeting up. I didn't want to believe it was what I thought. But then I saw him at Starbucks with her. I recognized her, Brittany, from his office. Amanda's voice dropped to a whisper. That's when I knew it wasn't just a fling. It was serious. My mind went numb. Brittany. The name rang a bell. I'd met her at Ryan's company holiday party. The woman with the perfect French manicure and the laugh that seemed just a little too familiar. I remembered shaking her hand, feeling something strange in the way she looked at me. A flash of pity or guilt or something I couldn't name at the time. Amanda squeezed her eyes shut, more tears leaking out. I'm so sorry, Sarah. I should have told you. I almost did, so many times. But I was afraid of what it would do to you, to the kids, to all of us. I kept thinking, if I just waited, maybe he'd end it and everything would go back to normal. But it never did. And then, you found that receipt, and I knew it was all about to come crashing down. I stared at her, the weight of her confession pressing down on me. The rain outside had turned into a steady downpour, blurring the world into gray streaks. For a moment, I could barely breathe. That night, after Amanda finally left in tears, I sat alone in my bedroom, the house unnervingly quiet save for the distant hum of the dishwasher and the occasional creak from the settling foundation. I replayed every conversation with Amanda, every moment she'd comforted me, every time she'd changed the subject or looked away. My mind circled around the same question. Was she truly trying to protect me, or was she protecting herself? Or Ryan? Or maybe just the illusion that our lives were perfect, that the ugly truth could be hidden if we all just pretended hard enough. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling fan spinning shadows across the room, and realized I couldn't keep this inside. I needed answers. I needed closure. I needed to hear Ryan's side, not filtered through Amanda or anyone else. The next morning, I waited until the kids were at school before confronting Ryan. He was sitting in his home office, tapping away on his laptop, dressed in one of his crisp white shirts, the ones I used to iron lovingly, now just fabric on a stranger's back. I stood in the doorway, arms folded, voice trembling. "We need to talk. Now." He looked up, surprise flickering across his face. "What's going on?" I took a deep breath, steadying myself. "I know. About Brittany. About Amanda. About all of it." For a moment he was silent, weighing his response, eyes darting to the family photos on the shelf. The four of us at Disney World, the kids in their Halloween costumes, our wedding day. His jaw clenched. "How did you—" "It doesn't matter." I cut him off. "I know. And I know Amanda's been covering for you." He slumped back in his chair, all the fight gone from him. "I never wanted to hurt you, Sarah. I swear to God, I never did." I felt my anger surge, hot and sharp. "Then why? Why did you lie to me for months? Why did you let Amanda be the one to carry your secrets?" He rubbed his face, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. "I was stupid. I was selfish. Brittany, it just happened. I told Amanda because I didn't know what else to do. She begged me to tell you, but I couldn't. I kept thinking I'd fix it, that I'd end it before you ever found out." His words felt hollow, but I pressed on. "Did you ever think about me? About the kids? About Amanda?" He sighed, staring at the carpet. "Every day, but I couldn't stop. And when Amanda found out, she threatened to tell you. I begged her not to. I told her you'd never forgive me, that it would ruin everything." I felt my hands shaking, rage and heartbreak colliding. "You put her in an impossible position. You put all of us there." He looked up at me, tears in his eyes. "I'm sorry, Sarah. I wish I could take it back. I wish I'd been stronger." For a moment, I almost pitied him. Almost. But then I remembered every sleepless night, every moment I doubted myself, every time Amanda had comforted me with words she knew were lies. I left him there, alone with his guilt, and walked out into the hallway, past the family photos that now felt like relics from another life. That afternoon, I picked the kids up from school, forcing myself to smile as they climbed into the back seat, chattering about lunch and recess and who got picked first for kickball. But inside, I was unraveling. The weight of the truth pressed down on me, suffocating. That evening, after dinner, I sat at the kitchen island, staring at my phone. Amanda had texted a dozen times. Apologies, pleas to talk, declarations of love and regret. I ignored them. I needed space. I needed to process the full scope of what she'd done, and what I was going to do next. But then, just as I was about to turn my phone off, another message flashed across the screen. Not from Amanda, from Brittany. It was a short, clipped text. "Can we talk? I think you deserve to know the whole story." My heart stopped. The woman my husband had risked everything for, the woman Amanda had seen with him at Starbucks, wanted to talk to me. My hands shook as I typed back. "What is there left to say?" Her reply came quickly. "It's not what you think. Please, let's meet. Tomorrow. Panera, 10 a.m. I stared at the screen. The familiar green logo of Panera Bread burned into my mind from so many mornings with Amanda. The irony was almost too much to bear. I barely slept that night, lying awake in the dark, listening to the steady drip of the bathroom faucet and the occasional rumble of distant thunder. I kept replaying the last year in my mind, picking apart every conversation, every look, every lie. My world felt smaller, scarier, like the walls were closing in. The next morning, I dropped the kids at school and drove to Panera, my stomach in knots. The sky was still gray, the air heavy with the threat of more rain. I walked inside, the scent of fresh bread and coffee almost nauseating. Brittany was already there, sitting by the window looking nervous. She stood as I approached, her posture stiff, hands clutching a cup of decaf. "Sarah, thank you for coming." I sat across from her, folding my hands to keep them from shaking. "Just tell me the truth. All of it." Brittany nodded, eyes red-rimmed. "Ryan and it started at a work conference last spring. He told me things weren't good between you two. I never meant for it to go this far. When Amanda found out, she confronted me. She told me she'd never forgive me if I didn't end it. I tried, but Ryan wouldn't let go. I felt a strange sense of relief and anger all at once. So, Amanda tried to stop it?" "She did," Brittany said quietly. "She threatened to tell you. She said she'd go to HR if Ryan didn't end things. That's when he panicked. He begged her to keep quiet, promised it was over every time. He lied to all of us, Sarah. Not just you." I leaned back, the words settling over me like a heavy blanket. For months, Amanda had been trapped in her own private nightmare, trying to do the right thing but paralyzed by fear and guilt. Ryan had manipulated us both, weaving a web of lies so tight none of us could see a way out. As I drove home, I felt something inside me shift. The pain was still there, raw and aching, but beneath it was a strange, fierce clarity. I wasn't crazy. I hadn't imagined the distance, the whispers, the things that didn't add up. I'd trusted my instincts, even when it meant facing the ugliest truths about the people I loved most. But just as I thought I'd finally uncovered every secret, my phone buzzed with another message. From Ryan this time. "We need to talk. There's something else you should know." I pulled into my driveway, heart racing, hands trembling, not sure if I was ready for whatever came next. The rain had stopped, but the world felt washed clean. Every color sharper, every sound louder. What happened next was beyond anything I could have imagined. And it would change everything. Again. I sat in my Suburban, parked in the driveway, the engine ticking as it cooled beneath the hood. The world outside was quiet, just the rhythmic chirping of cicadas and the distant hum of a lawnmower halfway down Maple Avenue. But inside my car, my mind was a hurricane. I stared at Ryan's message on my phone, my thumb hovering, uncertain, over the call button. "We need to talk. There's something else you should know." My entire body felt tense, as if I'd been holding my breath for months and only now realized it. Part of me wanted to throw my phone out the window, drive straight to Amanda's house, and demand every last piece of the truth she'd been hiding. Another part of me just wanted to curl up under the covers and pretend none of this had ever happened. But I didn't do either of those things. Instead, I finally pressed call. My hands shook so badly I nearly dropped the phone, but after 2 rings, Ryan picked up. His voice was rough, tired. "Hey." I could hear the TV in the background, some muted sports commentary. For a moment, I was transported back to 1,000 ordinary evenings. Ryan on the couch, kids playing in the den, dinner simmering on the stove. But that life felt like it belonged to someone else now. "What is it?" I managed, trying to keep my voice steady. "What do I need to know?" There was a long pause. I heard him sigh, the sound of him rubbing his face. "Look, I should have told you everything from the start. It wasn't just the affair. Amanda, she tried to get me to tell you myself. She threatened to tell you herself. I begged her not to. I told her I'd do it, but I kept putting it off. My fingers gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white. So you used my best friend as your decoy? You let her carry your secret, let her lie to me. Every single time I looked her in the eye? That's not what I wanted, he said quickly, his voice cracking. I was scared. I thought I could fix it before you found out. I didn't want to blow up our lives. Amanda, she was just trying to protect you. She kept pushing me, but I kept telling her to wait. I take full responsibility. You can hate me, but don't take it out on her. My mind flashed back to every time Amanda had seemed distracted, every time she'd forced a smile or changed the subject. Had all those moments just been her wrestling with the weight of Ryan's secret? Or was there more? I didn't know what to believe anymore. Why are you telling me this now? I asked, my voice small. Why not months ago? Why not the first time I asked if something was wrong? Another heavy silence. Because I saw you with Amanda today. In the Target parking lot. I saw your face. I realized there was nothing left to save. Not the way I'd been trying to. You deserve the truth. All of it. I let out a shaky breath. The pieces were falling into place, but the picture they formed was uglier than I dared imagine. Ryan, I need to know, was Amanda the only one who knew? Did anyone else? No, he said quickly, almost too quickly. Just Amanda. Just her. I wanted to believe him. I really did. But the seed of doubt had been planted, and it was growing roots in the pit of my stomach. When I finally hung up, the world outside had shifted from late afternoon to the golden glow of early evening. The streetlights flickered on, one by one, casting long shadows across the driveway. I sat there until the sky turned navy blue, trying to decide what to do next. I walked into the house on autopilot. The kids were upstairs, the TV playing quietly in the family room. I could smell dinner, frozen pizza, slightly burnt around the edges. I realized with a pang that I hadn't cooked a real meal in days. My world had shrunk to a single question. Who could I trust? That night, after the kids were in bed and the house was silent except for the low hum of the dishwasher, I called Amanda. She answered on the first ring. Her voice was soft, tentative. Hey. It was almost surreal, how normal she sounded. Like this could be any other night, any other conversation. But I could hear the strain beneath her words. We need to talk, I said, echoing Ryan's message. I know everything now. About you, about Ryan, about the months you spent lying to me. I just need to hear it from you. Why? Why didn't you tell me? There was a long pause, so long I wondered if she'd hung up. But then I heard her inhale, shaky and uneven. I wanted to, she whispered. God, I wanted to 100 times. But he begged me not to. He said he'd tell you himself. Every time I saw you, I thought, this is the day. She deserves to know I'll tell her. But then I'd see your face, and I just couldn't. I was scared too. Scared of hurting you, of blowing up everything for both of us. I could hear her crying softly on the other end. My own eyes stung, but I didn't let myself cry. Not yet. So you just lied to me? My voice was barely above a whisper. Every time you hugged me, every time you told me everything was fine, you were lying? Her answer was muffled, but I heard it. Yes, I'm so sorry. I closed my eyes, remembering all those moments. Wine nights on her back porch, our kids running barefoot through the sprinklers, the way we'd laughed until our stomachs hurt. How could those memories be real if so much of our friendship had been built on a lie? Was it just Ryan? I asked, barely able to get the words out. Was it just his secret you were keeping, or was there more? There was a silence so heavy it made my ears ring. Then, finally, Amanda spoke. No, there's nothing else. I swear, I thought I was doing the right thing until it was too late and I didn't know how to fix it. The truth was, in the moment, I almost believed her. But some part of me, the part that had survived all of this, knew better than to trust blindly again. I don't know if I can ever forgive you, I said quietly. But I needed to hear it from you. I needed to know I wasn't crazy. Amanda's sobs came through louder now, raw and unfiltered. "I'm sorry. I'm so, so sorry. I wish I'd been braver." It was all I could take. I ended the call and stared at the ceiling, feeling utterly empty. The next morning, the world felt different. I woke up before dawn, the sheets cold beside me. Ryan had spent the night at a hotel. The kids were still sleeping, their rooms quiet. I padded downstairs, poured myself a cup of coffee, and sat at the kitchen table, watching the sky turn pink through the window. For the first time in months, maybe even years, I felt a strange sense of peace. It wasn't happiness, far from it, but it was something close to relief. The truth was out. There was nothing left to hide, no more secrets pressing down on my chest. But the consequences of that truth hit me harder and faster than I ever could have prepared for. By the time I dropped the kids off at elementary school, a full 15 minutes early, just to avoid the morning rush, I could already feel the shift in the air. The other moms at drop-off, usually so chatty and eager to catch up, avoided my eyes. Amanda's car was nowhere to be seen. I saw her daughter being dropped off by her husband instead. I wondered how much they knew, how many of them had picked up on the tension, the whispered phone calls, the sudden, awkward silences at bake sale meetings. Plano is a big town, but our little corner felt as small as a goldfish bowl. That afternoon, when I pulled into the Target parking lot for groceries, my hands started to shake again. I spotted Amanda's SUV parked at the far end, but she wasn't inside. I wondered if she was avoiding me, or if she was just as lost as I was. Inside the store, I wandered the aisles in a daze, grabbing things I didn't need. Organic apples, almond milk, a new candle that smelled like cinnamon and regret. My phone buzzed again, this time with a message from my mother-in-law. "Thinking of you. Call if you need anything." I wondered if she knew, if Ryan had told her, if this was the beginning of the end for our perfect little family. When I got home, the kids were watching cartoons, oblivious to everything that had changed. I sat on the couch and watched them for a long time, memorizing the way their hair curled at the nape of their necks, the way they laughed at the same jokes over and over. I wondered how I would ever explain any of this to them. The days that followed were a blur of phone calls, meetings with lawyers, and awkward encounters at school events. Ryan and I sat down with a mediator at a bland office in downtown Dallas, the air conditioner humming so loudly I could barely hear myself think. We talked about custody schedules, child support, who would keep the house on Maple Avenue. Everything we'd built together was reduced to bullet points and dollar signs. But in the middle of all that chaos, I started to feel something else. Strength. I reconnected with friends I hadn't seen in years. Old college roommates, neighbors who'd moved away, women from my book club who'd quietly reached out with offers of wine and sympathy. I started going to the gym again, not because I wanted to look good for anyone else, but because it helped quiet the noise in my head for a little while. Amanda texted me once, a long message that I read but didn't respond to. She apologized again, told me she missed me, that she wished she'd been a better friend. I believed her in a way. But forgiveness didn't come easily, not for her and not for myself. The hardest part was explaining it all to the kids. We sat on the couch together, me, Ryan, our two little ones curled up between us. We kept it simple. Mommy and Daddy are going to live in different houses for a while. We both love you very much. None of this is your fault. They cried. I cried. Ryan cried too. After they fell asleep, I sat on the back porch, wrapped in a blanket, watching the stars blink on one by one. The air was cool, and for the first time in a long time, I let myself cry. Not just for what I'd lost, but for what I'd survived. I thought about Amanda, about all the years we'd spent as best friends, all the secrets we'd shared. I realized that sometimes the people you trust the most are the ones who can hurt you the deepest. But I also realized that surviving that hurt, owning it, and moving forward, that's where real strength comes from. It's strange how quickly life can change. One day you're planning playdates and potlucks. The next, you're dividing up holiday schedules and trying to remember who gets the kids on Thanksgiving. But through it all, I kept reminding myself, I wasn't alone. I had my kids, I had my family, and I had myself. If you'd told me a year ago that I'd be here, starting over, learning who I could trust, finding my own footing, I wouldn't have believed you. But betrayal, as devastating as it is, doesn't have to be the end of your story. Sometimes it's the beginning of a new one. And sometimes, when the dust settles, you find out you're stronger than you ever imagined. What happened next? Well, that's a story for another time. But trust me, it was beyond anything I could have imagined. And it changed everything, again.